Okay, this is an update on the shade garden. I haven't posted anything for at least a year, maybe two. But anyway, I've expanded it. I took a bunch of these 55-gallon drums and cut them in thirds and made raised beds out of them, as well as the metal 55-gallon drums. So these are the plastic ones to my left. And up in front, I've got the metal ones that I've cut into thirds and using as raised beds. So we'll start off over here. And by the way, this is kind of, the garden's peaked. And so a lot of things have died off. I did really well with Asian greens early on and other greens, but here's what we have. So we have basically kale. I've mixed a lot of things together, try to mix up pest pressure and try to confuse them a bit. But we have a tomato plant in here, but it's got really damaged by a hornworm the other day. Anyway, so we've got Premier kale and curly kale. And then in this next bed, I've got some more kale, some collards underneath. And then in the back, I've got a zucchini. And I don't see anything going on with that zucchini right now. In this bed, more kale. I like to plant a lot of kale. I eat a lot of kale and juice a lot of kale and other greens. So we got kale. I think there's a collard in there as well. And hiding in there, there is a zucchini, which is not getting enough sunlight to produce. And then in this bed, we've got Armenian cucumber, more kale, Russian kale, curly kale, and I think there's a Premier kale in there. And then there's an Armenian cucumber right down there just starting to grow. And they get really big if you let them. And there's various stages on those Armenian cucumbers and different things you can do with them when they're at various stages. I tend to take them off when they're about twice the size of a market more, and they're really super great. In this bed, more kale, of course, more Armenian cucumbers, and there's some Asian long beans in there. This one, we've got some celery starting to come up. It looks like parsley, but that's celery. And onions, red onions in half the tub at the perimeter, and some more Armenian cucumber. And there's a sunflower in there as well. And in this one, I've got a pepper in the middle, and doesn't have any peppers on it yet. It's got some buds, and it's got red onions all the way around. And I think there's Armenian cucumber coming out of there too. And here we have a pepper, and it's putting on little tiny peppers. Nothing to really write home about. There's a celery in the middle, Armenian cucumber. There's an Armenian cucumber there and an Armenian cucumber there. And this is getting to be close to the size of cutting. It's very tender at that stage. Here we have another pepper in the middle, onions all the way around, and some Asian long beans coming out the back. And in fact, there's some Asian long beans hanging down on the trellis there. And in this bed, a couple of peppers. And the reason these peppers in these beds aren't producing big peppers right off is because they had to outgrow the larger greens in order to get more sunlight. But here I've got Asian long beans. I've got some lettuce bolting. Most of the lettuces have now bolted. And I have Russian kale and some, looks like some curly kale at the bottom. Here I had some radishes. You can see they're daikon. They were really good. Those are just kind of the remnants, but they were really great. Some Armenian cucumber in the back there, and a squash plant, and I'm not seeing any squashes on there right now. I've harvested a lot of the stuff. Already harvested today a lot of things. In this bed, Premier kale, curly kale, Russian kale, some kind of let's see, an Asian green that's bolted already. In this bed, I've got, well, this one was strictly Asian greens, which they're done. They go pretty fast once the summer starts. But they were great. I got those seeds from Asian Farm to Table, I think it's called. They have wonderful seeds, great germination. There's a little watermelon growing in there. So we have a couple tomato plants that I've since put in there. Here's a Trombosino squash, which is just humongous. It's probably about 3.5 feet long. And in the back, I've got these fabric pots. I think I've got a pumpkin in that one, Seminole pumpkin. There's a pepper that's doing all right. I don't know if it's showing up on the camera, but it's a nice healthy pepper. And some kind of a squash or Seminole pumpkin. Same thing here. I think a Trombosino, and here's a watermelon. There's a little tiny pepper plant in there. Here's some watermelon plants over here, and the vines are going out. You can see, you can't see the watermelon underneath them. There's a few watermelons underneath there. This container, some kale. I've harvested some squash from it. Some yellow squash that was really good. I just kind of cut back things here today. I've got a Swiss chard and watermelon, and here's some yellow squash, but that one's not going to make it. It's got this blossom end rot. Tomatoes and squash in this one, and I harvested some cherries for lunch already. There's some, I don't know if you can see them through there, some cherries. There's a Trombosino hanging there, and here another squash plant. Zucchini. Harvested lots of zucchini, lots of cucumbers so far. And there's did I mention that Trombosino? That one's probably about 3 feet tall or long. And then this last one, I think, what do we have here? Some cucumber and tomatoes and kale, etc. Over here, it's a mixed bag. I had some Asian greens. You can see what happens as the season goes on. You just get a lot of pest damage there. But this was mostly greens and tomatoes. There's some paste tomatoes down that away. Let's see. There's one that's getting ripe underneath there. There's some over here. So still waiting to get a little more tomato production. Here I've got a little bit better pepper production. There we've got some bells over here. Oh yeah, here we go. Here's a nice bell. This is pretty healthy size here. It's just starting to turn red. There's another bell over there. These are self-watering containers. This is my fermented plant juice in there with lots of flies. Some other peppers, more peppers, and some just lettuces growing at the base, kind of a living mulch. Here there's 6 peppers planted in this. Oh wait, here's a bunch that over here. This one's got about 4 of these long. Those are what do they call them? The New Mexico. I don't remember, but they're. It's not the Hatch. It's something else. Joe Parker. So New Mexico Joe Parker peppers. And I'm waiting for those to turn colors. More peppers under here. These are those New Mexico peppers. And so I've got six peppers in there. This is a ghost pepper, which is just kind of struggling. That's a ghost pepper, kind of struggling. This, I'm not sure what kind of pepper this is. Kind of slender peppers. Last year I had some of those jalapenos in there, and it could be that. And there's another pepper of which I don't know what that is. Here in this bed, some tomato plants, some pink celery, some lettuce as a mulch, tomato, which this one's not I don't see any production on this one. There's some more celery, horseradish root in the middle. Now we've got some, it looks like turmeric, some turmeric plants coming up. We have onions all the way around the perimeter here. I think I planted like 120 onions or something. I'm not sure what kind of tomato this is. I don't remember, but I just harvested one earlier. This one's super beautiful, heirloom, dark red pepper. And then over this way, I've got in these little pots and fabric containers, I've got a lot of either watermelon or cantaloupe. So this is a cantaloupe, that's a cantaloupe, that's a cantaloupe. This is tomato in the ground. That's a watermelon, another watermelon, a watermelon, and a watermelon. And then over this way, this is cantaloupe and watermelon, cantaloupe, and they're starting to grow up onto the fence here. And I don't see any fruits yet, but there's a lot of flowers. So that's what's going on in the shade garden. Pretty good production this year. I've harvested squash, lots of squashes. Those Trombashino squashes are huge. Pretty happy with the production in the shade garden.